Hey everyone, it's PL Stewart here back for another book review. And today's review is on The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless. Gorgeous cover, amazing series, very talented writer. This is book two in Gale Song, and it is the follow up to the equally outstanding Children of Gods and Fighting Men. So, uh, this review essentially is really going to be a gush review about um, one of the main characters, Gormla. It's now, I'm sure I don't have the Gaelic pronunciation proper, even though no fault of Shauna Lawless's. She has educated me on that because I had the privilege of interviewing her previously on Page Twing with Taylor from A Between the Pages. Check out that interview with Shauna. She's a phenomenal person and wonderful member of the community. She is also a blogger and does a lot of great reviews and a member of Before Go Blog, which I'm also part of. Shout out to Before Go Blog and wonderful Beth Tabler. Yeah, so check out Shauna's reviews on Goodreads. She writes exceptional reviews, no surprise, because of course she's an outstanding author. So, Words of Kings and Prophets. I mean, quickly, this is set in the at the end, very end of the first century Ireland, in the year 1000 AD. And to summarize, without spoilers, what this book in the series is about, there are two magical races that have been alive for centuries, and they live somewhat in the shadows. However, they mix and mingle with humans as disguised as humans. So humans don't realize that they are immortals, and these two entities have a long-standing conflict against each other. One of the entities has essentially been mostly wiped out, except for a few members, and the other one is drastically reduced, has more members, but again, not as many as they had previously. So the one group of magical beings, whereby they have the least numbers compared to their ancient enemies. Gormla is one of the last surviving members, and she is living essentially the life of a queen in an unhappy marriage. Now, Gormla is just she is one of the best. I wouldn't even say morally gray. I would say she's pretty bad. She's fairly, most people would categorize her as being evil. She does not have many redeeming qualities, other than perhaps her physical beauty and her cunning and her determination, her ambition. She was utterly ruthless. She's willing to do whatever it takes to achieve power, more for not even herself, but yes, I mean, yes, power for herself, but also for her favorite son. What she's really looking for is agency, as being especially a woman in this world is absolutely brutal and oppressive, certainly at times, and power is not an easy thing to grasp in the society as a woman. So she's going to not just take power, seeking it because of her gender, but also because her race, her magical race, has been essentially mostly wiped out by this other enemy magical race. So she wants to get rid of them. And in the meantime, they, who have the numbers, are hunting her. And so she's trying to evade them, remain incognito, so that the humans around her don't realize that who she is, because she doesn't technically age physically. So she has to fake aging, and many times what she has to do is, when she gets to a certain age and she's not showing physical signs of aging, she has to essentially fake her own death, or disappear, and then move on to somewhere else that doesn't realize, of course, that she's not aging. So it's a very interesting concept that's explored here. So Gormla, once again, she's that person that, and this is the astounding thing about how well drawn Shauna has made this character. She's someone who you can't help, despite all of her horrible, horrible traits. You can't look away. She is very charismatic, and she's charismatic to the reader, and she's also obviously charismatic within the scope of the narrative that people are drawn to her, mostly for her physical beauty, but also because she is charming and she's extremely witty. She is cutting, like her. She is again ruthless. She's extremely self-absorbed, self-obsessed, narcissistic. She looks down on others. She believes that she should be someone in prominence, especially by virtue of her position as a noble lady. She has no maternal instincts. She is someone who will sacrifice anyone necessary to get what she wants. She is critical of others, highly critical. There's very little compassion in this character, but again, she's just so well written, and somehow you end up caring about whether or not she's going to make it. And of course, some readers will be reading just to see her get her comeuppance. But yeah, she's such a fascinating and such an exemplary character in terms of the way she's depicted so realistically by Lawless. And again, you can't look away from the train wreck. She's one of those people who, you know, again, because of her physical outward beauty and her charm, um, a lot of people see through that at the same time. A lot of people see through that, underneath she's this shallow, cold, uh, very unredeeming character. However, a lot of people are still very attracted to her, and the men decide they want to possess her. And she's certainly not above using those charms to get what she wants, and to use everyone, man, woman, etc., around her, child, even to get what she wants. Um, but she's a character that again you just can't stop thinking about, and you don't look away from. And I believe that the other main character, Fola, is much more kind and caring and benevolent and altruistic, and someone who's self-sacrificing. But yet, I would argue that for a lot of people, they will be drawn, and as great as well depicted as Fola. Again, Fola is a wonderful character, and she's from that opposite ancient culture and race that their race wants to destroy, Gormless race. Fola is wonderful, but she has her own issues. But at the same time, there's no comparison in terms of who's worse, who's the worst person. It's definitely Gorma, but Gorma is the one that I certainly, for me, because of how morally bankrupt she was, it was just so incredible to really witness her inner monologue, which she was willing to go through, and yet somehow still the skill and brilliance of Lawless you find yourself feeling sorry for her, you find yourself feeling empathy for her, and wondering if she's going to make it alive, wanting her to make it, not wanting either one of these characters, frankly, to destroy the other. You're hoping that eventually there's going to be some sort of peaceful solution. I can't see it happening because there's many other players involved besides these two within their respective magical races, who probably wouldn't settle for a peaceful solution, and not necessarily that either one of these, especially Gormla, not that Gormla's looking for one, Fola potentially, but it's all about survival as well. And for both of these women, and for both these two female protagonists, the POV basically throughout the book, it shifts pretty well equally back and forth between Gormla and Fola. But as much as I absolutely enjoyed reading Fola's arc and Fola's POV chapters, I found myself not being able to wait to get back to Gormla. That's how much she drew me in. She's only people, she's bad for you, but you can't help yourself. That's Gormla. So she really drove this book for me, and it's not that Fola or any of the characters were the secondary or tertiary characters were drowned out. They were amazing, and there's a lot to enjoy there amongst those other characters. However, I found myself just like in the first book. I think Gormler really stole the show. So in the first book, Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and I don't think it was any different necessarily in this book, but that is not. That's because I was so personally, sucked in by Gormla, not because the author Shauna Lawless didn't do an exceptional job of drawing both main characters and the other characters really well. So this book and this series, again, I think I mentioned in a previous review that if you like Bernard Cornwell's Saxon stories, so historical fiction, um, Saxon stories, better known through the TV version called The Last Kingdom, Uther of Bebenberg. If you like that sort of historical drama, essentially, and historical fantasy, this is more the historical fantasy end. So Bernard Cornwell's Warlord Chronicles, Arthurian Tales. That's also something that you would, if you really enjoyed that, this is pretty well a must read. This series and this author. The research, I'd mentioned this again before in previous videos, is exceptional for this series. Shauna Lawless really knows her Irish folklore, really knows her Irish history, and the way she blends and incorporates the lore and the mythology versus the fact is just phenomenal. So this is something that definitely is going to figure, I'm pretty sure, in my top reads, traditionally published reads of the year. Certainly the first book in the Gale Song series, The Children of God's Fighting Men, did figure in that top rung for me by the end of last year. I can't see this not figuring in the top 10 to 20 books that I've read in this year, probably higher, probably in the upper, you can see it making to the upper five. I know it's really early. The year isn't even halfway done, but, this is a series that's definitely got my attention. And I think based on, what I've described, if this sounds like it's your bag, I think it will really grab you too. So once again, thanks for listening. This was a quick review of The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless. I've linked in the video description down below. I've also linked the Goodreads link to the Goodreads page for this book. So if you want to add it to your TBR, again, highly recommended. I'll be reading everything that Shauna writes, especially in this series. And there's also, I believe, a prequel novella out for this series. So go to Goodreads, check out Shauna Lawless's works. Again, if you like that historical fiction, historical fantasy, stuff with Irish folklore, and you're a fan of, Bernard Cornwell's Saxon story / The Last Kingdom, must read. All right, thanks so much for listening to this review, and we'll talk